So let's discuss the forward propagation. So forward propagation is nothing but the equations that we have discussed already, that is these two equations, and the flow of the forward propagation is, it will be like this, which is governed by this equation, and will be like this, which is governed by this equation. So basically the whole forward propagation will be like this. So the data will move this way and this way, this way and this way and this way. So it will be all over, and it is governed by these two equations as we have discussed already. What is this? This is basically a multi-class cross entropy loss, which is defined as yt log of y hat t. So this is the actual label of the class, and this is the estimated label through RNN. So that's why we are calling it as y hat t. And what is this? This is the total loss from j running from 0 to t, as the length of the sequence we are considering is as capital T. So the loss will be actually the summation of all the losses which are present over here till t. So that is what is represented over here. So this basically, these two equations formulate the forward propagation path of RNN, and these two will actually quantify your results which are output by the RNN network, and it will indicate that how closely your estimated outputs of the RNN are to that of the actual outputs. So once we have these equations, now we will discuss what is actually backpropagation. So backpropagation, as you all know, is basically a technique for training the network. So in this particular case of RNN, we call this as backpropagation through time, and in short we call it as BPTT. I will let you know why we are calling it as backpropagation through time. But this term backpropagation, at least you know that what this actually is all about, as you have studied this in detail in your neural network class also, as well as in your convolutional neural network lectures also. So let me repeat once again that what is the purpose of backpropagation. The purpose of backpropagation is to train the parameters which are present in the network. So in this particular case we are discussing RNN. So what are the parameters which are trainable here? The parameters which are trainable here are W, U and V, which are the weights which are connecting the hidden layer to the input layer, output layer to the hidden layer, and between the hidden and hidden layer. So these parameters are trainable parameters, and they have to be adjusted during the backpropagation process. And the equation that is used to do that is these three equations. This is a simple gradient descent that we are applying on weights W, V and U. Alpha is the learning parameter. And please note that during the backpropagation we need to know the derivative of the loss with respect to the weight, which is important. And similarly for V, we have to know the derivative of loss with respect to V, and for U also the same thing. So the whole idea of backpropagation is to derive these derivatives and then plug it into this gradient descent equation to get the updates W, U and V for each iteration. And this L is the complete loss by adding up all the losses L1, L2 and L3, and is given over here also. So let's discuss each of these derivatives in detail by first considering this derivative first, and then we will move to other parts. So let's discuss this. So now our main focus is to calculate the derivative of the loss with respect to V. And what is V? V are the weights that are connecting the hidden layer to the output layer. So as you know that all these V's are shared. Because of this sharing, the derivative of the loss with respect to V is basically the individual derivative of the losses with respect to V, and it will run up to T here. So here L1, L2 and LT are the individual losses, and so you are summing up all of that from I running from 1 to T to get the complete loss with respect to V. And please note that the weights present in the V are all shared. So once we have this equation, now we will calculate the individual losses with respect to V. So in order to do that, I have rewritten these equations here, which we have already discussed, and you can see that what we have to do is we have to calculate this, that is the individual losses with respect to V, and I is running from 1 to T. Now one thing you note here, that the loss function that is defined over here is indirectly related to the V via y hat t, and then y hat t is a function of zt, which in turn is a function of v. So there is an inherent chain rule going on here. So it's not directly differentiable. So what we have to do is we have to apply chain rule. So this is basically the chain rule, where the derivative of the loss with respect to y hat is done first, which is done on this, and then y hat as a function of zi is done, which is given over here, and then the derivative of the zi with respect to v is done, which is given over here. So we have to calculate all these three together and multiply, so that we will get the partial Li with respect to v. So let's calculate each of these terms one by one. So first of all, we have to calculate the partial Li with respect to yi. So how will we calculate this? So as you can see, we have this equation here, which is also given like this. So we have replaced t with I to generalize the indexing. So when we do the partial derivative of Li with respect to yi hat, it is simple. So it's like this, as log x is 1 by x, and we are doing the derivative with respect to the yi hat, so it will be this. So this is easy. So the next thing that we have to do is we have to calculate the partial derivative of yi hat with respect to partial zi. So in order to do that, which is given over here, let's rewrite this equation, which is given here as this, which can be expanded like this using the definition of the softmax. And now there are two situations here. So you have to take a situation where I is equal to k. So when this I is, because you know we are running from k equal to 1 to k, where capital K is the number of classes, output classes. So for MNIST dataset, for example, then the capital K will be 10, and for other classification purpose, it depends how many classes it has, K will take that value, and for binary cross entropy, for example, K will be 2. So this K is actually representing the total number of output classes that you are predicting. So because of that reason, we have two constraints. One is the derivative of I with respect to K. So when that is the case, so what we are doing is we are generalizing the derivative with respect to K here now instead of I. As you can see, earlier we had I here, now we have kept it as K, where K will take a value of I or it will take a value of other than I. So when K is equal to I, then the derivative will be this. So it's easy. So you have to use product rule here, where you take the derivative of the first and keeping the second same, and then taking the derivative of the second, keeping the first same. So once you do that, you will come up with this result, and then you can resubstitute these values and you will get this result, where we are actually putting I here. And the reason for that is because all i's are equal to k when we are considering this case. So this is very simple. You can do the derivation and you will come up with this result easily. So now we will consider the second case when I is not equal to k. In that case, when you take the derivative, you will get this result. And when you substitute the value of yi, which is given over here, for this expression you will get this result. And please note here I is not equal to k. So for partial derivative of yi with respect to zk, where k can take any value, where k is equal to I, it will be this, and when k is not equal to I, it will be this. So what we do is, we will actually use these two derivatives, which is this one and this one, which we have calculated here, to evaluate the product of these two derivatives. Let's do that. So I have rewritten the equation here. So now what we will do is, we will substitute the values of the derivatives that we have calculated for this and this. So once you do that, you will get this result. It's just the substitution of the first derivative result multiplied with the second derivative result, which is this one. So this is basically the result of this, and this is basically the result of this. So once you multiply that, you will get this value. And now what we will do is, we will actually sum up all the values of k to get a general expression for this derivative. As you can see that for k not equal to I, you have this, and for k equal to I, you have this. So let's sum up with all the values of k ranging from 1 to capital K, where capital K is the class, as we have discussed earlier. So we have to sum up these values to get the generalized expression. So this is what we are doing here. We are actually summing up for all k's. So you know that this expression is for k equal to I, which I have just copied from here, and this is for k not equal to I, which is this one. So what I have done here is I have just substituted I as k here, and the reason for that is since I is equal to k for this particular derivation, and this is I not equal to k, as it's already there in our earlier expression. I am just copying it over here. So now the thing is, I will keep this first expression as such. The second expression, I will take y hat k out, and then I will put yk plus I not equal to k yi here. So this is yk and this is yk hat at the output, and you can see that this is for k equal to I and this expression is for k not equal to I. So what we can do is we can bring these two together, where the summation will now run from I equal to 1 to k, in which we have included this term also, where k is equal to I. So once we have included that, then we have minus yk plus yk hat, and this will be equal to 1. And the reason for this expression is equal to 1 is because yi is basically a one hot encoded vector with all zeros and 1 at a particular location, and wherever it is 1 is actually the true class for that particular location. So that's why when you sum up for all the classes, it will give you a value of 1 only. So the derivative of Li with respect to the derivative of zk is basically minus yk plus yk hat. So what we will do is, so we will substitute the product of these two values. So we will substitute here and multiply with this expression. So let's do that. So once you do that, it's over here. So you can see I have placed this multiplication result over here, and it is multiplied by partial zi with respect to v. And we know this expression where zi is related to v with this expression. So once you take the derivative with respect to v, you will get ht over here. So what you will do is you will substitute this value here. So once you do that, you will get this result. And please note that this is basically a outer product of two vectors. So the dimension of this expression is k cross t, and the dimension of this is d cross t. This you can cross check with the matrix formulation that we have done earlier. So once you have these two and you take the outer product, the result will be k cross d. So this expression, that is a partial derivative of the loss with respect to v, is a k cross d matrix, and this is the outer product of the two vectors. So now we have the expression for the partial derivative of loss with respect to v, which is given over here. So next what we will do is we will discuss the partial derivative of the loss with respect to w. And while calculating the partial loss with respect to w is the only time where we are doing back propagation with respect to time, and we will discuss this once we go into the derivation of this particular expression. So as you recall that the partial derivative of the loss with respect to w will again be individual losses with respect to the w. And what will be the final loss? The final loss will be the summation of all these individual losses. So our main motive is to calculate the derivative of the loss, individual loss with respect to w, and then sum it up till I running from 1 to t. So let's evaluate this expression. So now in order to calculate these individual terms, let's rewrite the equation again, and this you already know is again coming from the forward propagation equation of RNN. And now what we have to do is we have to calculate the individual losses as discussed over here, and you know that partial L by partial W, I am just expanding this expression, so it will be this. So we have to calculate individual losses, that is the loss of 1 with respect to W, loss of 2 with respect to W, and loss of 3 with respect to W till loss of T with respect to W. So in order to calculate the loss of 1 with respect to W, what we have to do is we have to write this equation, because this is a generalized equation with respect to time t. So let's write it for time t equal to 1, which is given over here. So once you have this, then it's easy to write the loss with respect to w as it's explicitly related to W. H1 is explicitly related to W, and it can be easily done. So it's like you have to apply a chain rule over here, because we are doing the derivative of the loss with respect to W. So that will be equal to partial derivative of the loss with respect to y1 first, and then the partial derivative of y1 with respect to h1, and then the partial derivative of h1 with respect to W. So this chain rule is followed because the loss function is indirectly related to W through this chain rule. So once we have this, it can be easily computed. So you have to just substitute these values, whatever you get for this one, which is actually we have already evaluated, it's y1 over y hat 1, and for this it is actually also, this is also already evaluated earlier. You can see the earlier derivation which we have done for the softmax classification. So it's basically y1 hat minus y1, as you can see over here. We have already done this thing over here. So once you have these two expressions already calculated, then this one is easily calculated by taking the derivative with respect to this expression, which is actually h0 1 minus tan hyperbolic square times vx1 plus wh0. So once you put all these values into this expression, you will get the loss with respect to W here. And please note, it's the loss, that is the very first loss at this location. Now what we have to do, we have to calculate the loss with respect to 2. But before going there, let us see the flow graph of the back propagation resulting from when we calculate the L1 loss with respect to W. So you can see here that the back propagation will be following this path when you are dealing with only this node. So you can see that what you are doing, you are taking the loss with respect to y1 node, because y1 is connected to L1 here, and then you are taking the loss of derivative of y1 with respect to h1, because h1 is connected to y1 here, and then you are going in this way, and since the weights which are connecting the h0 with h1 are here, so you have to calculate the derivative of the h1 with respect to W here. So this way you can calculate the loss L1 with respect to W. Now we will calculate the loss with respect to L2 and see how things become more complex. So you know the loss with respect to W will again follow the same rule, that is the loss with respect to y2, the loss with respect to h2, and the loss derivative of the h2 with respect to W. This is simple chain rule. But now you know h2 is basically represented like this. Here t is equal to 2, and you can see now that this is very implicit equation where h1 is again a function of W, as you can see in our earlier equation where h1 is represented here, where h1 is again a function of W, and here also you can see, and here you see that h2 is a function of W, but h1 is also a function of W. So there is a inherent implicitness going on in this particular equation. So this creates a trouble when you take derivative of h2 with respect to W. In order to take the derivative of h2 with respect to W, we have to actually break them into two parts, where the first one is called as the explicit part and the second one is called as the implicit part. The explicit part basically treats this argument which is here inside this tan hyperbolic as a constant, whereas the implicit part will move inside and take the derivatives. So in this particular case, what we are doing is we are taking the derivative of h2 with respect to W, treating all the inside terms as constant, where h1 we will assume also as a constant, but it will be added with the implicit part. In the implicit part, what you will do is you will not take argument as a constant, and you will apply chain rule till you reach the derivative with respect to W. And how will you do that? You will take the derivative of h2 with respect to h1 first, because you know that h1 is the only factor which depends on W later on also, and then you take the derivative of h1 with respect to W and you stop here. And the reason for that is because h1 is now related to W with only h0, and h0 is actually the initial seeding point, and it's the point where the RNN starts. So that's why you stop here itself. So now when you substitute this expression into this equation, what you will get is this, and then you expand it, you will get this result. So this is the loss with respect to W, and you can see, and now you can evaluate each of these individual terms and keep them here, and you will get the derivative of the loss with respect to W easily calculated. And in terms of the flow diagram, if you see, you can see how this derivatives are calculated. I'm just moving it down for simplicity. Since we are considering the node L2 now, so the back propagation will go like this. And now you can observe that first of all you have to calculate the derivative of the loss with respect to Y2, because Y2 is connected to L2, and then you calculate the derivative of the loss of Y2 with respect to H2 as H2 is connected to Y2, and then you take the derivative of the loss with respect to H1 as H1 is connected to H2, and then you calculate the loss of H1 with respect to W. So this you can see is basically this expression. So this is the back propagation that is happening, and this back propagation, as you can observe, we are going back in time, because here time t is equal to 2 and you are here at time t equal to 1. So and you are here at time t equal to 1, so you are going back you are performing back propagation with time, because you are moving from node t equal to 2 to time t equal to 1. That's why we call this as BPTT, because of the derivatives that we take with respect to W, which are actually dependent upon time. So as you move from here to here, you are actually moving in time backwards. So this finishes off with the loss with respect to W here, loss of L2 with respect to W here. Now we will discuss the loss of L3 with respect to W and see how things become more complex. So as you can see that this loss H3 will be actually again a function of H2, which is again a function of H1, and which is again a function of H0. So H2 is basically a function of H1 in terms of WH1, and H1 is again a function of H0 in terms of WH0. So as a result of which things become very complex, and now what we will do is we will perform the same approach as we have done for case of partial of H2 with respect to W. So what we will do is we will divide this expression into two parts, this part and this part. This is the explicit part, and this is the implicit part. And once we have this here, then what we will do is we will keep this as such, and then again take the derivative and again divide the derivative into two parts. This is the explicit part with respect to W for H2, and this is the implicit part. And then we rearrange the terms by multiplying this expression with each of these individual terms, and it is represented over here. So you can see you have three terms that are coming up because of these multiplications, and it's actually becoming more and more complex. So now what we are doing is we are again taking out this from this expression, and then what we are doing is we are multiplying with this just for the sake of completeness. And what we are doing in the next step is we are short circuiting these paths. This partial H2 with respect to partial H2 can be short circuited and can be removed. So once we remove this short circuited path, this is actually called as short circuited path. So we are actually short circuiting it. So once we remove this, we can write that complete expression as a generalized expression which is given over here. So you can verify this and check, and please let me know if there is some mistake. This is the generalized expression for this particular expansion, and in terms of the back propagation it will look like this. As you can see that the back propagation with respect to the L3 node will follow like this, and it's actually going back in time. That's why we are calling it as back propagation in time. So now let's see how we can generalize this expression which we have derived for I equal to 3 or I equal to 1 and I equal to 2. That is this one. And by saying I equal to 1, I equal to 2 means partial of loss with W and partial of loss of 2 with respect to W. So let's see how we can generalize this expressions. So I have rewritten this equation again, and now if you generalize it, let's represent this 3 with I, because this I is always changing. So we have represented this with I, so all this will be I now, because all this 3 will be replaced by I. So wherever 3 is present, it will be replaced by I, and this K is basically running from 1 to 3, and so we are running from 1 to I, where I in this case is 3. That's why we are writing it like this. So this actually represents this equation, or any other equation which we are calling as, let us say, 1 by W or L2 by W. You can substitute the value of I equal to 1 and I equal to 2 in this equation to get the values of expression here and cross check. And to take the total loss with respect to W, what we will do is, we will actually sum for all the values of I running from 1 to capital T, and K will be running from 1 to I as usual. And now this gives you a complete expression for the total loss with respect to W. So let's calculate each of these individual terms one by one and see what closed expression we can get. So first of all, if we look at this term, this is basically a chain rule in itself. By saying that means, if you put I equal to 3, you will get expression which looks like this, and this expression is not surprising. As you can see, this is the same expression that we have written over here, this one, and we had short circuited this path earlier, but this time we are not doing it. So if you retain it as such, then this is the same expression as it is written over here. Earlier we short circuited this path, but this time we are not doing it here. So now if you do that, then and if you generalize this equation to all the other expressions which we will obtain for I equal to 4 or 5 or like that, so you can write this particular expression for a generalized expression as this, and you can cross check also when you substitute I equal to 3. So once you have this expression, the only thing that we have done is, we have actually replaced this particular portion, because it's a chain rule, by this expression. So the advantage of doing this is, you know that HM is related to its previous HM minus 1 sample in time as this is already known to us. So when you take the derivative with respect to HM minus 1, you will get this expression. It's simple, right? It's a derivative of a tan hyperbolic function, and what you get at the output is this derivative. So what we have done now is, we have calculated this part. Now what we have to do is, we have to calculate this part, and we have already calculated this part earlier. So once we calculate this part, then we will just substitute all these values here, and we will get the derivative of the loss with respect to y as a final expression. So now this part has to be evaluated, and you can see that this part is basically easy, and it's actually h of k minus 1, which is given over here. You know this expression already. So when you take the derivative of the loss with respect to W, it is h of k minus 1, and the reason why we have taken it as a value of hk minus 1 is because we are taking an explicit derivative now, as it is represented by a plus sign here. This tells that the argument inside is a constant. That's why if you take the derivative with respect to the W, it will be h of k minus 1. If it is h of k with respect to W, then you have to actually take the derivative of h of k with respect to W first, plus the derivative of h of k with respect to h of k minus 1, and then h of k minus 1 with respect to W. Then you have to do this way. But since it's a explicit expression, so we will terminate over here itself. So now what we will do is, we will substitute this value and this value in the expression that we had derived earlier, and also you know that the derivatives of this particular product is equal to this, which we have already derived. So what we are doing is, we are substituting these values in this expression, and now you can see that this is the final expression for the derivative of the loss with respect to w, which is given by this. And if you want to calculate the loss with respect to u, will also follow that same pattern as we have done it for partial loss with respect to w, and you can check yourself also this derivation which we have done here. So this will be the expression for the loss with respect to u, and the only difference is that this will be changed. Earlier it was w here. And also if you want to evaluate this expression, and it's an explicit expression, so when you calculate the derivative with respect to u, you will get only xk. So keeping this all in mind, the derivative of the loss with respect to u, the total derivative will be this one, where the only difference between this and the expression that we have derived earlier for the partial loss with respect to w was that this is changed, and the rest everything is same. So this is the expression for the loss with respect to u. So next, once we have these all derivatives evaluated, then you can easily put this derivatives in this equation and get the gradient descent running, and update the values of w, v and u with each step of iteration during the back propagation process. So this finishes off with the derivation of the back propagation through time in case of RNN. Next what we will do is we will discuss vanishing gradients.